Son, Holy Spirit, amen. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Our Lady, seat of wisdom, and the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen. A family affair. This is a pretty confusing chapter. The remainder of 30 and also 31, because it has some interesting kind of behavior in it. I'm going to propose an interpretation of it, which I think is the only one that has completely made sense to me. But as Augustine says, there's more that we don't know than that we do know about Scripture. So I am constantly investigating this section as far as what the ultimate meaning is going to be. But I would say, throwing it right out front, the main, at least within the Genesis narrative, we do know that there's been a chosen man, Abraham. There was a promised son, it seems to be Isaac, through which a people are going to be generated. And it's through this nation, that the rest of the nations will be blessed. So what goes on within the Jacob story, I think, is really this struggle of trying to establish a national identity, if you will. Jacob is going to become a distinct people that have their own identity. Now, we already saw, I guess we already have some foreshadowing to how this line has been blurred between the different types of people. I mean, Abraham had 2 sons. One had 12 sons. And the other one, Isaac is going to have a son, Jacob, who's going to have 12 sons too. Esau marries a daughter of Ishmael to stay within the family, if you will. But the thing is that there's going to be a distinct nationality or a distinct kind of people that have their own identity that is going to be the vehicle through which God's going to work in salvation history. That people is going to be Israel. And it's going to be from Israel that Christ will ultimately come. And so, within the Jacob story, he's going to his kindred, his family, Laban, and he gets his 2 wives. He has these sons. But the thing is, who do the sons belong to? Are they going to be Jacob's? Or are they going to be a corporate affair? They're going to belong also to Laban. I mean, they both have 2 different grandfathers, if you will. There's Isaac and Laban. Who does Israel kind of belong to? Who do they flow from? Who do their identity ultimately derive from? This idea of actually making a distinct type of people. That should be in the forefront of our mind, because it's going to be, when we get to the Joseph story, it's going to be the family. It's going to be the 12 sons and their kids that go to Egypt. And Exodus, who Moses saves, is primarily going to be to save the Israelites. The Israelites are going to be the vehicle of salvation history. So how do the Israelites come to be a distinct people? That's going to be attempted to be resolved actually in the Jacob story. So we go from his father, a promised son, to now a promised people. The making of a people. This is actually a more difficult process if we think about it. I guess I'll wait till we go through this narrative to kind of figure it out. But it also has moral, I think, it has moral lessons for us. Because a husband leaves his parents and cleaves to his wife, the 2 become one. And we've all been to family get-togethers, at Christmas. Whose house do you go to? You go to your dad's dad, or you go to your mom's dad? Well, pox on both their houses if you don't like either of them, okay? Because you have crazy uncles on both sides of the family who always cause a problem at the family party. But then you end up with these weird divisions, huh? My family, we always did Christmas Eve at one grandparent's house, and then Christmas Day at a different grandparent's house. That's all fine and dandy if everybody lives in the same city. My brothers are constantly struggling with where the heck are they supposed to go at Christmas, because they get one shot, if you will, because they have to fly, because we're Indiana, Texas, northern Texas, and my parents are both in South Texas. And I'm in California. Guess what? I win this year. I got brothers coming to visit me. this year. Never thought that would happen. First time in 10 years I'm going to have family at Christmas. Anyway, but this idea, like, who do you belong to? Which side do you belong to? Well, ultimately, in the struggles of life, and you're going to figure this out, is the way you're probably supposed to order your life is actually to your immediate family. I mean, the husband leaves his parents and cleaves his wife. Those two become one. They're not one anymore with either their parents. Sometimes it's good to live as a clan. I'm not going to say there's something necessarily wrong with that, but there are difficult things that show up when you live as a clan. At least in my own experience, it always becomes a point of really, people struggle with implementing piety, family piety, familial piety, when somebody starts to have to take care of an in-law in extreme age. All of a sudden a wife who, hey, I married you, but now like the majority of my time is taking care of your mom or your dad, who I have like no real attachment to. There can be difficulties there built in to the immediate family. Like, where does my piety belong and who do I take care of? Like, first and foremost, it's the immediate family. When we live sometimes in close proximity to our more distant relatives, those lines can start to be kind of clouded. Sometimes it can be really difficult when a patriarch in a family, a grandpa, or most likely a matriarch, normally that's how it works, a grandma starts to dictate. All of a sudden she has like ultimate authority over what happens with her kids, even though they have wives. A son will listen to his mother more than he listens to his wife sometimes. And that could be a dangerous thing, a difficult thing. So I think we're going to see some of this, actually the moral of the story, of making a distinct family. And you know what? See you later, Grandpa. Because that's what happens here. See you later, Grandpa. Grandpa doesn't like it. But the husband and wife, and I guess we can debate who's his wife because he has two of them. But the family comes first. And who's the family? Me, my wife, and my children. That's my family. It's not something we normally think about nowadays. And people of religion, I think, have a difficult time implementing piety because we do have to take care and respect our elders. But as far as like who the virtue of justice has a greater demand on is going to be our immediate family. My wife. What's good for my wife and what's good for my children. That's what a father is supposed to be thinking first and foremost. And a mother. A family affair. Okay. When Rachel had born Joseph. Okay, so Joseph was where we break off of the generation of the children. Because Joseph is going to function really importantly. But we have this interesting episode in Jacob's life. Okay, and it's going to be really kind of confusing. But anyway, let's try to get through it. Send me away that I may go to my own home and country. Okay, so Jacob is viewing living with the in-laws as being in an exile. He's not at home. He's on his own country. He wants to go home. Give me my wives, my children, for whom I have served you. And let me go. This is all like, let my people go. It's almost like an Exodus event. Like, let me go. I've been serving you over here. I want to go home. The my wives and my children, I didn't box that, but I should have, okay? It's going to be who do the wives belong to and who do the children belong to. That is going to be a big theme in this entire chapter. Are they Jacob's or are they Laban's? Are they the fathers or are they the grandfathers? Again, this service. But Laban said to him, if you will allow me to say so, I have learned by divination. Whoa, what the heck is going on there? That the Lord has blessed me because of you. Name your wages, I will give it. And Jacob said to him, you yourself know how I have served you, and how your cattle have fared with me. For you had little before I came, and it has increased abundantly, and the Lord has blessed you wherever I have turned. This idea of service, he's served. Jacob's been pretty much like indentured servitude to his uncle this entire time. We're going to get to the absolute entire time. We know he served, he worked, he labored in order to acquire his wives, so that's 14 years because he did 7 years each. But hey, he had all these children born in the meantime. He's still been working, so he's been in exile longer than 14 years. The Lord has blessed you wherever I turn. Laban has been blessed by Jacob being in his family. But this idea, this is kind of, I think it's kind of ironic because Jacob originally wanted to have all this massive wealth and have people serve him, and he's been serving somebody else. Instead of his blessing, it seems that the blessing has fallen on other people, namely Laban. The Lord has blessed you wherever I've turned. But now, when shall I provide for my own household also? My own household. I've been providing for your household. I need to take care of my own. This is going to be one of the major themes here that should be in our mind. He said, what shall I give you? Jacob said. You shall not give me anything if you will do this for me. I will again feed your flock and keep it. So Jacob basically is now brokering a new deal with them. You don't have to give me anything. I'm going to keep taking care of your sheep, and this is how it's going to be. Let me pass through all your flock today, removing from it every speckled and spotted sheep and every black lamb, and the spotted and speckled among the goats, and such shall be my wages. So my honesty will answer for me later when you come to look into my wages with you. Everyone that is not speckled, spotted among the goats, and black among the lambs, if found with me, shall be counted stolen. Laban said, good, let it be as you have said. But that day Laban removed the he-goats that were striped and spotted, and all the she-goats that were speckled and spotted, every one that had white on it, every lamb that was black, and put them in charge of his sons. And he set a distance of 3 days' journey between himself and Jacob. But Jacob fed the rest of Laban's flock. Okay, so what's going on here is they've brokered some kind of deal. Jacob is, my honesty will answer for me later, which is kind of like another kind of interesting thing. Like Jacob, he's not known as a very honest character so far, but now he's going to do something. He goes, hey, this deal, I can't deceive you with this one. Now he's going to do something in the background, which is kind of interesting. But this is kind of their deal, is that if something is mixed, speckled, spotted, or striped, if something is not just white or black, okay, it's going to belong to Jacob. If something is pure of color, it's going to belong to Laban. It's already kind of interesting that it's going to be the mixed thing that's Jacob's. He is kind of a mixed character, if you will. To probably properly understand this, how this story even functions, because it's kind of like, why are we going into detail about like the mating ritual of goats and lambs and Laban's flock and Jacob's flock? It's kind of weird. I think the best way of doing it is, and I boxed this, okay, Jacob, and I boxed all the words speckled, okay, and striped. There's an interesting kind of play on the name here, and I think this is probably the best way of understanding this whole story, which is like the name Jacob is Yaakov, okay? The way you say speckled is Nakod, and the way you say striped is Akod, okay? So there's a play on the word. There's a play on the word. So Jacob's sheep, Yaakov's sheep are Nakod and Akods. Okay? So it sounds like it. Now, the white sheep, the way you say white in Hebrew is Laban. Okay? So sheep that are white are Laban. Laban's sheep are Laban. Okay? I guess we're not going to get into the black ones. But that, and so I blocked Laban and white. So through the sheep, and this is an interesting, I think this is kind of a neat thing, because this is a very material thing they're doing. And so the sheep become symbols for the people, the children, okay? Those who are both of us are going to end up being mine. The ones that are only yours are going to be both of us, white and black, speckled or spotted or striped, are going to belong to Jacob. And he did marry his daughters, Laban's daughters. Those that have nothing to do with me, that aren't speckled, but they're either like, they're all you, okay, white, they're going to belong to you. The sheep symbolize the children of Jacob and the future nation, if you will. And so this is Jacob And I think probably that the symbol of sheep as a people is going to be carried on past this. I mean, there's a reason why Moses is a shepherd and he shepherds his people. The whole Old Testament actually will refer to the people as like the flock and God as a shepherd. So in this little story, we have this interesting thing where the sheep actually do function as symbols for the people. So this is pretty much like a source story for God as shepherd and his people as sheep. Goes all the way through into the New Testament. So that's probably the best way of reading this weird thing that they do with the sheep. So Laban, white. White is Laban. Okay. So Jacob does this weird thing behind the scenes where he makes a stripe and a stick and he sticks it next to the trough. So it seems like, is it trickery? I mean, he's not doing any kind of deception, but he's definitely out crafting Laban, okay? Because he's manipulating the husbandry. He's manipulating the mating of these sheep. And there's some kind of idea, like if a sheep is viewing a stripe, it's going to end up being striped. He's doing something like this. Subsequently, we're going to say that he had a divine communication telling him this. But in this story, it doesn't show up. I'm not going to read through the blah, blah, blah. It's kind of confusing. Let me do this last line. Thus the man grew exceedingly rich in large flocks, maidservants, menservants, camels, and donkeys. So the conclusion of this whole story is that Jacob's flock, now during this servitude, is becoming massive. But it's not just in sheep. I mean, we're dealing with all the sheep. But even our narrator says, and maidservants and menservants. Okay? So like the family and all the people attached to the family are growing. The story is much bigger than just sheep. It's a nation is being built. Let me go to 31. Now Jacob heard that the sons of Laban were saying, Jacob has taken all that was our father's, and from what our father's he has gained all his wealth. So, hey, Jacob is acquiring all of his speckled and striped sheep, and Laban's flocks are getting smaller because they're all coming out to be like Jacob's, and Jacob is acquiring them all. Laban's nation, if you will, is diminishing in size, and Jacob's is growing in importance. Laban's other sons don't like this because, hey, that's going to be their nation, if you will. That's their flocks, that's their inheritance, and Jacob's taken it, just like he took Esau's, except he didn't actually take anything from Esau except the blessing. So it hasn't been tangible until right now. There seems to be a churn in Jacob's luck, if you will. Jacob saw that Laban did not regard him with favor as before. This is like a frame line. It's going to be used again. Then the Lord said to Jacob, return to the land of your fathers, to your kindred, and I will be with you. This promise that I will be with you. Well, God has consistently been with Jacob. The entire time he's been in indentured servitude. But now he gets his command to go from God. Go back to the land of your father and to your kindred. Actually, it's fathers. Okay? It's not just about Isaac, it's also about Abraham. And we're going to see it's actually going to go back even farther. So Jacob sent and called Rachel and Leah into the field where his flock was, and said to them, I see that your father does not regard me with favor as he did before. But the God of my father has been with me. That's good. Jacob's recognizing God's been with him. Because remember his old conditional thing. You'll be my God if you will be with me. Okay. Well, Jacob's now seeing, hey, God's been with me. You know that I have served your father with all my strength. Yet your father has cheated me and changed my wages 10 times. But God did not permit him to harm me. Okay, I like this. This is Jacob complaining to his wives about how he's had to serve his father. Not just okay, I'm going out there, I'm going to sit underneath this tree and relax. With all his strength, Jacob has sweated a lot. I highlight this because it's another one of these, it's an inversion of that blessing he kind of stole from Esau. This is not how his life was supposed to go. There's an important lesson here. Even though he's been away from his home and kindred for so long, and he's been working so hard, he sees actually that no harm has actually been done to him. He's talking about physical harm. He's been protected in this whole long sojourn away from his own family and kindred. And so this whole, in a wide sense, we'd say, hey, yeah, this isn't good. He was cheated, or he's been like accidentally married the wrong person. There's been all kinds of evil perpetrated on him. But has it truly harmed Jacob in the grand scheme of things? According to Jacob here, is like, it has not. God didn't protect Jacob from experiencing hardship. God protected Jacob from hardship actually destroying him or truly harming him. And this is where we kind of get this whole image. That which does not kill you makes you stronger. Like, have you ever heard that? Okay. The whole purpose of this whole exile is like, hey, why are we all laughing? That was what?
It's a song.
It's a song now? Oh, okay. So you've all heard it then. That's the story of Jacob's life. Okay, he needs to become a man that is worthy of the blessing he has. The destiny that lays before him. The process of how he becomes a worthy vehicle is through a refinement. And refinement happens through fire. And so he has to burn away a heck of a lot of attachment. At the end of his life, when he talks to Pharaoh, he actually talks about how his life has been one long, miserable, hard life. That is what his life is. But that's actually how he becomes a great man. So, ultimately, we need to whenever we get down because difficult things happen, we have to really take a good stock. Has God really permitted this to be to my harm, or is it ultimately going to be to my benefit? Because most likely it's going to be to our benefit if we're righteous. He definitely punishes the wicked. But as long as we're here on earth, that can redound to a greater good, not harm us. If he said, the spotted shall be your wages, then all the flock bore spotted. And he said, the striped shall be your wages, then all the flocks bore stripes. Thus God has taken away the cattle of your father and given them to me. Now, Jacob doesn't relate how he actually kind of manipulated it by doing the whole stick thing. In the mating season of the flock, I lifted up my eyes and saw in a dream that the he-goats which leaped upon the flock were striped, spotted, and mottled. I think I highlight. Oh yeah, cheated is going to be an important word. Okay, that is going to be a theme word for this whole chapter too. Who's cheating who? Okay, Laban cheated Jacob. Okay, the striped. Okay, it's played on Jacob's name. Now in this chapter though, relating to his wives, he's talking about how an angel told him, which ones were going to be fecund, and so which ones to do your bet on. Then it leaves out his husbandry skills from the previous chapter. So it's an interesting doublet here. Is he telling two different stories to two different people? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, what?
Which word did you say that was like Jacob? Was it striped or speckled?
The one in our box, striped. Well, striped and speckled are both plays on his name, but in this one, the only one that shows up is striped. In this dream, Jacob does the whole, here I am. Okay, the last time we saw this was when he stole his birthright. This is the patriarchal response to God. Okay, Abraham does in 22. And then you get this event where the birthright is, and then the sons do it. Well, now Jacob is doing this too. Like, here I am. This is how he's recounting the story, at least, upon him receiving a message from God. And I think this is probably supposed to be, since we're getting this whole story about how God actually talked to him about how the sheep are going to prosper. Like, we should be thinking back, actually, how Laban had a dream that his flocks prosper because of God. So there's going to be this whole debate on like who knows the real God or who gets actually the true thing. Because Laban, through divination, said, hey, Jacob has made myself prosper. And that was true, but that wasn't going to continue to be the case. So his divination was wrong as far as how God's blessing is going to work. Well, here Jacob gets his own, and his dream, if you will, is going to be correct. So God's communicating through Jacob, not necessarily through Laban. Laban is reading things wrong. I have seen all that Laban is doing to you. I am the God of Bethel, where you anointed a pillar and made a vow to me. Okay, 28:18. Which is where he did his whole conditional vow, if you will. This is clearly the God that was on his journey at the beginning of his journey, and now he's relating in the dead center before he does his trip home, that God's telling him to go home. Okay? Now arise and go forth from this land and return to the land of your birth. Okay? The land of your fathers, land of your kindred, the land where you were born. Then Rachel and Leah answered him. It's interesting. Like, why doesn't he just go? I mean, God told him, but now he's consulting his wives. That's like part of this story. Then Rachel and Leah answered him, is there any portion or inheritance left to us in our father's house? Are we not regarded by him as foreigners? For he has sold us, and he has been using up the money given for us. All the property which God has taken away from our father belongs to us and to our children. Now then, whatever God has said to you, do. Okay? So again, this whole idea on who do Rachel and Leah belong to? They clearly don't see themselves belonging to Laban anymore. They belong to Jacob. And the property that was theirs, they see as their father taking from them. Okay? And so they're saying, let's get out of here. Like, this isn't our family. You're our family. So what God says is in accordance to how we feel. Let's do this. So Jacob arose and set his sons and his wives on camels, and he drove away all his cattle, all his livestock which he had gained, the cattle in his possession which he had acquired in Padan Aram. Okay, so he arose, put his wives and sons on cattle, the sheep, if you will, and now he shepherds them out into the wilderness to go back home, to the land of Canaan, to his father Isaac. Okay, now he's going to do a little detour. It's not going to work out for him. It takes him a while before he gets to Isaac. Okay, but he's going to his father Isaac. That's where he's supposed to go. He's supposed to go to the land of his birth. That's an important detail. Laban had gone to shear his sheep, and Rachel stole her father's household gods. And Jacob outwitted Laban the Aramean. See, now it's given Laban's nationality, the Aramean. It is not an Israelite. In that he did not tell him that he intended to flee. He fled with all he had, and arose and crossed the Euphrates and set his face towards the hill country of Gilead. Okay, our word here is outwitted, but it's the same word as stole. Okay? He deceived, he stole, acquired through subterfuge. So Rachel stole her father's household gods, and then Jacob deceived through deception. He left Laban. Okay, he did it under the cover of darkness, if you will. But stole and deceived. It's the same word. That's why I put it down here. And I think this is an interesting play, because now that Jacob is leaving home, the way that he left now that he's leaving the place of his exile, okay, his wife, his preferred wife, the one that he desired upon getting into this foreign country, Rachel, is actually behaving in a similar manner as he did when he originally left home. Because he stole the birthright, right, when in exile. Well, now, Rachel's leaving her land of her birth, and what's she doing? She's stealing something. It doesn't look good either, because she's stealing pagan gods. So some people will put this up to her virtue. She doesn't want her father worshiping pagan idols, so she's going to take them. The way his story plays out, it doesn't seem like that one's actually very tenable or logical. But I want you to think she is acting like Jacob, and she is Jacob's favored wife, the one that he always desired. Fled, okay? He's supposed to go. He's more scared of Laban than he is of disobeying God, Like, that's why this whole flee. He's not going towards his home country. He's like fleeing from Laban. Because Laban's going to take his goodies or what? Like, that's what it seems like there's still a lot of the old man there. Okay, Jacob has not become perfected. He's fleeing. He's not going with a sure step. He's not going towards something. He's running away from something. When it was told Laban on the third day that Jacob had fled, he took his kinsman with him and pursued him for 7 days, followed close after him into the hill country of Gilead. But God came to Laban the Aramean in a dream by night, and said to him, "Take heed that you say not a word to Jacob, either good or bad." Okay, so now Laban is getting a divine communique too. So we just had one from God to Jacob. Now we're having another one from God to Laban. And Laban overtook Jacob. Now Jacob had pitched his tent in the hill country, and Laban with his kinsmen encamped in the hill country of Gilead. And Laban said to Jacob, "What have you done? You have cheated me, carried away my daughters like captives of the sword." Cheated, cheat me, steal, stolen, stolen. You can see, I highlight them all right here for you so you can see that this is going to be a big theme word. Why did you flee secretly, cheat me, and did not tell me, so that I might have sent you away with mirth and song and tambourine and lyre? Okay, this is Laban. Is he being sincere here? Would he have been like, "Hey, yeah, go ahead and go. Let's have a party. I have no more sheep now because you're going to take them all." It's a good father-in-law for Jacob. "Why did you not permit me to kiss my sons and my daughters farewell?" So I hope you're like picking up on this whole thing. Laban keeps saying "my daughters," and Jacob's sons he's calling "my sons." And this is this whole struggle. Like, hey, who do the sons belong to? Do they belong more to Grandpa, or do they belong actually to Jacob? Grandpa thinks they belong to him. He has exerts some kind of rights over them. "Now you have done foolishly. It is in my power to do you harm. But the God of your father spoke to me last night, saying, 'Take heed that you speak to Jacob neither good nor bad.' Now you have gone away because you longed greatly for your father's house. But why did you steal my gods?" Jacob answered Laban, "Because I was afraid, for I thought that you would take your daughters from me by force, your daughters, and any one with whom you find your God shall not live." Okay, so that's Jacob saying, "Hey, look it. We don't have any gods. Whoever has your gods, if they're here, let them die." We all know, like we know who that is. Jacob doesn't. Like, oh man, Jacob, like you just cursed your own wife, the one that you really love. "In the presence of our kinsmen, point out what I have that is yours and take it." Now Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen them. Okay. So Laban went into Jacob's tent and into Leah's tent and into the tent of the two maidservants, but he did not find them. And he went out of Leah's tent and entered Rachel's. Now Rachel had taken the household gods and put them in the camel's saddle and sat upon them. Okay, so Rachel is sitting upon the idols. Okay, on her camel. Jacob's curse, the fact that they give us this detail that she's sitting on them, and then moreover, as this story goes, keep this idea, she's sitting on top of them. Laban felt all about the tent, but did not find them. And she said to her father, "Let not my lord be angry that I cannot rise before you, for the way of woman is upon me." Now, is she telling the truth here? I don't know if this is a true statement or if this is just a straight up lie. Okay, it would seem, you can read it either both ways. Either way, if it's not a lie, it's definitely mental reservation, if you will. But her next child, which is going to happen shortly after this, is going to be Joseph. It's going to be Benjamin. The birth of Benjamin is going to kill her. Her womb, she's claiming she can't get off these idols because of her womb. Okay? The way of woman is on her. And it's her womb that's, in a certain sense, sitting on top of the idols, which Jacob cursed. Okay, so we've already gotten built into the story that her womb is now cursed, and it's through her womb that her death is going to come. Okay, especially when it's with the way of women, which ultimately menstruation actually is all about actually generating children. So it's going to be her next child's going to kill her. That's kind of built into here right now. And she's being deceptive. 27:22. I boxed felt. Okay, so Laban felt. He wants to use this word because that's exactly like Isaac feels. It feels like Esau, super hairy dude. Okay, but the voice is Jacob's. Laban is like Isaac. He's feeling around. Okay, trying to find out where his idols are. Like because that detail doesn't like flow naturally. It's kind of interesting. They really wanted to give you this event that Laban's feeling around trying to find. Just like Isaac was trying to feel to determine the truth. Which is why I think it's a probably better read to understand Rachel as like the wife of the old Jacob. The desires of the old man that needed a change. And she behaves like him in her exit event. And she's going to die before they ever make it home, in a certain sense. Jacob has to say goodbye to this wife and keep Leah. Then Jacob became angry and upbraided Laban. Jacob said to Laban, "What is my offense? What is my sin that you have hotly pursued me, although you have felt through all my goods? What have you found of all your household goods? So it is here before my kinsmen and your kinsmen that they may decide between us two. These 20 years I have been with you. Your ewes and your sheep goats have not miscarried, and I have not eaten the rams of your flock." So 20 years he's been away from home. "That which was torn by wild beasts I did not bring to you. I bore the loss of it myself, of the hand you required it, whether stolen by day or stolen by night. Thus I was. By day the heat consumed me, the cold by night, and my sheep fled from my eyes." So what's this image? Is it in the heat of the day and in the super cold moments of night, he had to get up and work because the sheep would run away. He had to constantly be working day and night this whole time. And sheep that were stolen by wild beasts. I like the whole wild beast things because it's probably proper to understand wild beasts as lions. Okay, lions are always going to figure as like the chief predator of sheep in ancient Palestine. There are no lions there anymore because the Romans killed them all. But they were natural to that area. And so this idea of the lion eating the sheep starts here. And the next time it's going to be used with Joseph. Again, the sheep symbolize children, if you will. Stolen. Okay. "These 20 years have I been in your house. I served you 14 years for your 2 daughters and 6 years for your flocks." Okay, that's the total time that he's been in indentured servitude. "And you have changed my wages 10 times. Okay, like he thinks he's been deceived for like the last 20 years. Jacob has paid his penance. "If the God of my father, the God of Abraham, and the fear of Isaac." That is a unique phrase here, this fear of Isaac. We haven't heard God called the fear of Isaac. I'm trying to think, when's the only time Isaac would have been ever afraid or experienced fear? It would have been Genesis 22. But this is a recapitulation of the blessing of 28:20. But Genesis 22 should be in our mind for the fear of Isaac. "Had not been on my side, surely now you would have sent me away empty-handed. But God saw my affliction and the labor of my hands and rebuked you last night." Which is why he has all these sheep and stuff. "I've worked, okay, and this is like the fruit of all that hard labor. If it would have been up to you, you would have taken away everything from me, kind of like I did to my brother Esau, or intended to do." Then Laban answered and said to Jacob, "The daughters are my daughters, the children are my children, the flocks are my flocks, and all that you see is mine." Okay? It's becoming obvious. "But what can I do this day to these my daughters, or to their children whom they have borne? Come now, let us make a covenant, you and I, and let it be a witness between you and me." So Jacob took a stone and set it up as a pillar. We probably should be thinking like a stela, okay? Like we saw when we studied Egyptian art. You know, this a stone monument where they would inscribe actually some kind of like victory or boundary territory. These were used as boundary territory to mark boundary. It's probably built into what Abraham's doing with altars. Jacob said to his kinsmen, "Gather stones," and they took stones and made a heap. And they ate there by the heap. Okay, so they're making some kind of agreement. And meals always go with agreements. Laban called it Jegar Sahadutha. Okay, but Jacob called it Gilead. Laban said, "This heap is a witness between you and me today." Therefore he named it Gilead. And the pillar Mitzpah. For he said, "The Lord watch between you and me when we are absent one from another." if you ill-treat my daughters, or if you take wives besides my daughters, although no man is with us, remember God is a witness before you and me. Okay. So Laban doesn't want Jacob taking any other wives outside of these two daughters. That's interesting. So this pillars, they're making an agreement on how the children are going to be provided for, taken care of, outside of Laban's view. Laban said to Jacob, see this heap and pillar which I have set between you and me. This heap is a witness, and the pillar is a witness that I will not pass over this heap to you, and you will not pass over this heap and this pillar to me for harm. Okay, so this is now a boundary line. Okay, basically you can't bring an army across this to come back and kill me. Okay, either way, one way or the other. So they're brokering a peace agreement. Provision for the descendants and a peace agreement between these two nations now. The God of Abraham, the God of Nahor, the God of their father, judge between us. Okay, this is Laban saying it. So he uses the God of Nahor because Nahor is his dad, okay, which is, I can't remember now. Is Nahor Abraham's brother? Yeah, I think it is. Because Lot, I think, is not. I don't know. Anyway, Nahor is going up. Abraham and Nahor, and we should be thinking actually that whole generation that was given to us before the Abraham event. Like that goes all the way back to Shem. So the God of those fathers, if you will. So that then our stories go through Abraham primarily, and then Isaac and now Jacob. Laban's recognizing the same God here. So Jacob swore by the fear of his father Isaac. This is another strange phrase. I gotta think about it for a long time. Jacob offered a sacrifice on the mountain and called his kinsmen to eat bread. And they ate bread and tarried all night on the mountain. So this is the sacrifice. First sacrifice Jacob has made. Early in the morning, Laban arose, kissed his grandchildren and his daughters, and blessed them. Then he departed and returned home. And his grandchildren are going to return to their home. And it's not going to be where Grandpa lives, because they are distinct, different people. Okay? The descendants... And there's no other women going to be involved. It's going to be Rachel and Leah. Those children is going to be the Israelite people and their descendants. And this is the story that makes that line very, very clear. There's a picture of Jacob, his wives, his sons, and there's sheep. Any questions? Yeah? Okay? Okay. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. Glory be to the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Benedictio Deum tentis, in Patris et Filii Spiritus Sancti, et super vos et semper.